Kalau teman-teman ngerasain hidung tersumbat gak beres-beres, ini adalah gambaran polip hidung yang sering kali dihubungkan karena keluhan pilek yang berulang-ulang yang gak pernah berhenti. Sehingga terjadi proses pembengkakan yang berlarut-larut di dalam rongga hidung sehingga menyebabkan proses peradangan dan pembengkakan seperti ini. Polipnya ini udah keluar dari rongga sinus dan kita khawatirkan nanti muncul juga kasus sinusitis. Jadi kalau teman-teman nih, saya ulangi, kalau ada keluhan pilek, hidung tersumbat nggak pernah berhenti, segera datang ke dokter.
Hidung berair tanpa henti, itu alergi terhadap udara sejuk. Asyik bersin tanpa henti, itu alergi terhadap udara panas. Hidung tersumbat, gatal, mata juga gatal, itu alergi terhadap udara kering. Hidung gatal dan tersumbat sampai susah tidur, hanya perlukan satu kotak, hidung kamu akan terasa jauh lebih lega. Dengkur kuat, tidur mesti bernafas melalui mulut. Satu kotak saja sudah cukup. Berdekah, batuk tanpa henti, jalan 2 langkah pun semput, satu kotak pun sudah memadai. Pening, sakit kepala, deria bau makin lemah, semburan ini masih boleh membantu kamu. Kalau semburan ini tidak mampu membersihkan kotoran dalam rongga hidung, tidak boleh membantu kamu bernafas dengan lega, maka video ini menjadi buktinya. Pihak jenama sanggup serahkan seluruh syarikatnya kepada kamu. Saya sendiri dulu pernah alami resdung yang teruk, gejalanya sering berulang, tak pernah lepas daripada tisu, tapi sekarang sudah pulih sepenuhnya. Tak kira seteruk manapun simptomnya, hanya dalam 3 hari, semburan ini akan buat kamu percaya. Coba dulu, baru kamu tahu betapa hebatnya kesannya. Semburan hidung ini mengandungi 11 jenis ramuan herba, diformulasikan khas untuk penjagaan rongga hidung. Dengan hanya satu semburan lembut, ekstrak herba akan meresap ke dalam lapisan mukosa hidung dan dalam 24 jam saja kamu akan bernafas dengan lancar. Sekarang sedang promosi diskon 50% untuk masa terhad. Klik troli belian untuk membuat pesanan sekarang.
Hello my friends, welcome back to our channel. Home is where our heart is, where today I'm absolutely blessed to be spending the afternoon in the company of the humble hawthorn tree. The hawthorn tree is such an incredible tree. This tree can live for over 400 years and it provides a wealth and abundance of food for wildlife. In the spring, the hawthorn tree bursts into life with its beautiful flower blooms, and this provides pollen and nectar for the insects. Then later on in the year, as the earth tilts away from the sun and we near the autumn, these flowers transform into the hawthorn berries, providing and yet again a wealth of food for more wildlife such as the birds. Now the hawthorn tree is an incredible tree that's actually been used for centuries, going all the way back in time for its medicinal properties, because the leaves, flowers and berries of the hawthorn tree are not just edible, they're medicinal. So come with me and we'll learn all about the hawthorn tree's medicinal properties, and then we'll head home and Stella's going to show you how to make the delicious hawthorn honey. So the hawthorn's been used for many ailments throughout history, and it's most commonly used for strengthening and healing the heart. That's where the hawthorn berry's power lies. The hawthorn berry was first recorded in the world of herbal medicine, herbalism, by the ancient Greek physician Dioscorides, and he said, "The hawthorn is effective for increasing the strength of heart contractions, increasing blood flow to the heart." So what's really interesting about that is that's the first recorded use of hawthorn being used to treat ailments to do with the heart. But all throughout history, the ancient Chinese, all around Europe, everyone for centuries has been using the berry, mainly the berry of the hawthorn, for this purpose. So the hawthorn berry has been known in traditional medicine as a treatment for things like heart failure. So then science had a look at it, and they done a study on more than 850 people, and this concluded that those who took hawthorn extract along with their heart failure medications experienced improved heart function and exercise tolerance. They also experienced less shortness of breath and fatigue. And then there was a massive study on more than 2,600 people with heart failure, and this suggested that supplementing with hawthorn berry may reduce the risk of sudden heart-related death. Isn't that incredible? After all of this time gone by, this knowledge being passed from generation to generation, and then these studies being done, proving that they had it right all along. Absolutely mind-blowing. How did they know? Nobody knows. But now the hawthorn berry is if you want to bring it into your life, of course, first thing you got to do is learn how to identify the tree. So let's learn how to identify the hawthorn tree. So firstly, you've got the hawthorn tree's bark. You can see it's almost a shade of grey, and the trunk kind of twists round out the ground, creating a tension within it. Then of course you've got these big thorns, giving it the name the hawthorn tree. You don't want to mess with these. Then you have the berries. These, when they're ready, are bright red, small and round. Now these bright red hawthorn berries look like little apples and they're edible, but the seed inside isn't edible. When you squeeze them open, you'll see the seed inside. You can't eat the seed, but the flesh of the berry is edible. You can see it's kind of oily and it actually tastes like a bland apple. Now the main way you can tell you've got a hawthorn tree is by its leaves. These leaves have 5 lobes. They're deeply lobed, and these lobes alternate in different directions. These are the main way we can tell we've got a hawthorn tree. So the humble hawthorn tree is pretty simple to identify, but just so you're confident and I'm confident, let's compare it to a tree that you don't want to accidentally mistake for the hawthorn tree, and that's the poisonous yew tree. Now the yew tree, if you look at its leaves, totally different to the hawthorn. The yew tree's leaves are like needles, the hawthorn leaves with the 5 lobes. And then when we look at the berries, when we compare the berries, on the left we have a hawthorn berry that looks like a little red ripe apple, and then on the right we have a yew berry. Now you can see the yew berry's red flesh doesn't completely encapsulate the seed. Now these are the comparisons. On the left we have hawthorn berry, on the right yew berry. It's pretty easy to tell the difference between a yew tree and a hawthorn tree, but it's definitely best to know and understand them basic trees, because the yew tree is deadly poisonous. It takes just 2 seeds of a yew tree to kill a horse and just 50 of the needle-like leaves from the yew tree to kill an adult. So let's talk about the edibility of the hawthorn. Now in early spring, when these little leaves start to appear, these are edible, and they're known to the older generation as bread and cheese because they kind of taste like a savoury snack. So in early spring you can eat the hawthorn leaves, and then of course when the berries appear in late summer and autumn, these are edible as long as you spit out the seed. They make a delicious snack. They taste kind of like a bland apple. And we really love them in our house because they've not got an amazing flavour compared to say a blackberry, but they're a really autumnal kind of flavour. They're really earthy. There's something special about them. It's probably our tickers telling us that they approve and put more of these little berries in the body, please. Now there's lots of recipes you can make with hawthorn berries, and there's lots of reasons why you should. For one, they're a powerhouse in polyphenols. These are an antioxidants that you can find in plants. And secondly, it's just a really good fun recipe to get out with your friends and family, and you can create it together. It's a bit of work, the hawthorn berry recipes. It's not as simple as a little boil. There's a bit of hand labour going on, but the end result is a much more unique recipe. Now, one of the most popular recipes of hawthorn is hawthorn ketchup. With a little bit of medium through a sieve, sugar, vinegar, you can create your own ketchup alternative. and this is rich in all them antioxidant properties, and it tastes surprisingly like ketchup. I'm a bit of a ketchup snob personally. I love ketchup. I have ketchup on nearly everything, and this gets the thumbs up from me. And secondly, what we'll show you how to make today is Stelly's new recipe, hawthorn honey. This is the hawthorn berry infused with actual honey, so it can last all throughout the year, and we can use it in teas or even a cheeky honey sandwich, and that brings all that good heart strengthening goodness into our body in a nice sweet treat kind of way. And then of course you've got the traditional hawthorn tea, where you simply dry out the berries. These are berries from last year. You simply dry these out and you can make yourself hawthorn tea for the rest of the year, and that's probably the most practical way of using hawthorn berries if you want to use them for their medicinal goodness. Now before we head home, Stelly shows us how to make some hawthorn honey. I thought I'd share some hawthorn folklore with you. It's been believed for a long time in folklore that cutting down a hawthorn tree is extremely bad luck. And do you know why? Because it's said that the fairies are the guardians of the hawthorn tree, and they actually live underneath hawthorn trees. And if you did cut one down, then they would seek revenge on you, and soon you would perish. So that literally means the fairies, if you cut down a hawthorn tree, will hunt you down and kill you. And that superstition still runs deep in society today, and many people probably don't even know why that their granddad said, oh, we're not cutting that hawthorn tree down. But now you say, why? And they say, oh, because it's unlucky. But that's where that folklore comes from, and that's why you'll find many hawthorn trees just like this one standing alone in the middle of fields still today. Now these fairies, although they're extremely protective over the hawthorn tree, it's completely fine if you want to come and collect some berries, leaves or blossoms from the hawthorn tree, as long as you're well mannered and polite. And it's said that if you happen to be a bride, then the fairies, you don't have to be polite, the fairies will welcome you with open arms to collect the berries and blossoms, because they want the hawthorn tree to symbolize relationships and love. Well, I've got enough berries now for what we need to do. Of course, remember, only take your fair share. Nature can provide for everyone's needs, not everyone's greeds. So I've taken my fair share of hawthorn berries for this year. So let's head home and make some hawthorn honey.
Hi guys, welcome back. Here we have our wonderful bowl of foraged hawthorn berries to make delicious hawthorn honey. It's so super easy peasy, and it's such a brilliant way of getting all of the mighty goodness of the heroic hawthorn into your system.
Heroic hawthorn, encapsulate all that goodness and preserve it
in
hawthorn honey.
Hawthorn honey. It's such a helpful little berry, and it's really amazing for your heart. So make it into a honey, stir it into your tea, make it into some biscuits, and it's delicious. Come with us and we'll show you how to make it. So for this recipe, hawthorn honey, all you need is some helpful hawthorns and a cup of delicious honey. Now honey is amazing because everybody knows that honey is great for when you've got a sore throat or you're feeling a bit cold and fluey, and it's such a delicious, yummy, yummy mix. We're going to mix in our hawthorns with the honey today. Step 1, we're going to add 4 cups of hawthorn berries to the pan, and we're just going to take off any stalks and leaves as we go, but if a few stay in there, don't worry too much. We don't need to be too pedantic about it. There we go. Oh, they feel so nice. They're almost like one.
Hello everyone. Well, we're very lucky today. After a week of rain and wind, we have a lovely sunny autumn day. Lovely light, lovely mellow breeze, and I thought, well, it's a good opportunity to get out and get some more hawthorn. And I'm going to be showing you how to make some medicine with hawthorn. I have a couple of different methods, but first of all, I'm just going to talk about the magical qualities of hawthorn, because this is a really iconic tree or bush in Irish mythology and folklore. And in fact, on the landscape, if you visit Ireland, especially the west of Ireland, you will see these bushes. They're always bent over by the wind, looking like graceful dancers. And you can well believe when you see them that there is a fairy living in the tree, because that is the belief that these trees are home to the fairies, to the Sidhe. And that is why people are very circumspect, very careful about what they do with the lone hawthorn, the hawthorn that stands alone, that iconic one that I'm telling you about, because the possibility is that there is a fairy living in the tree. So if you harm the tree, you're going to get a lot of comeback from that fairy, who will be very angry. So most people use a bit of sense and they just leave the tree alone and to live its life. Those people who are a little bit foolish and don't believe in any of that rubbish, they have interfered with hawthorns to their own cost. So the hawthorn is very much revered in Ireland, I would say, to this day, because even those people who might be a bit scornful, they wouldn't want to take the chance of causing any harm or damage, because there are too many recorded, and quite recently recorded, examples of people who have died, or they've had a terrible string of bad luck, or they've been injured after interfering with a lone hawthorn bush. You should leave them completely alone. This is a hedgerow, so it's different. These are just ordinary hawthorns, although not really ordinary. I don't mean to insult you, but they're not the fairy home. So throughout this year now, I've been collecting all the blossom. Now I'm going for the berries, and I'll be making some medicine inside. So the medicine, or the hawthorn itself, is really wonderful for the heart, in a physical way, but also in a metaphysical way. So these little hawthorn berries, if you were to make a decoction of them, they give great courage for the heart. You know, so anyone who's facing something tough in life, they need a bit of courage. Hawthorn is an ally to turn to. It's also wonderful for anyone who's been grieving, because you know, when you're grieving and you can't release that grief, you can tense up, and then your breathing becomes impaired, and then you're getting aches and pains everywhere, and the grief just seems to get worse and worse, and a heavier burden to carry. So hawthorn helps your heart to just relax and let go, and so it's a beautiful, beautiful ally in that respect. So it has thorns. So the thorns remind us that we can open our heart. The hawthorn helps us to open our hearts, but the thorns are there to protect our heart. So, you know, some people might want to open up to people and be loving towards people, but they may have had bad experiences where people have taken advantage of them, and they become wary of opening their hearts. But hawthorn helps you to have the courage to do it, and it also offers that bit of protection. So it's a really amazing plant, because we're living in these peculiar times, and what we should all be doing really is opening our hearts to other people. But you know, there is a bit of wariness about doing that, and the hawthorn can give us the courage to get over it. So I've got enough there for today. I'll put the kettle on and make a brew, and I'll show you what I'm going to do for making medicine. Okay, dogs. Okay, so here we are in the kitchen. I'm going to tell you now about the medicinal value of hawthorn. It is the best cardiovascular heart remedy you will ever come across. It's a tonic for the whole system. So that means, well, because it's in the rose family, it's very cooling and it's very astringent. So if your blood vessels have become a bit floppy and they're finding it hard to push the blood through, hawthorn will tighten. Because it's astringent, it's going to tighten it up and make them more elastic at the same time, so they can move, your blood vessels can move and expand to allow the blood to run through, but they're not floppy and weak. So it's a great tonic for practically every cardiovascular problem, so palpitations, arrhythmia, angina, which is a chest pain, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, angina, I've said angina, cholesterol. So even though it's a very highly renowned heart remedy, it's also a digestive aid because it cuts through fats, and so that leads to lower cholesterol in the blood. So what I have here is, since May, when the tree came into blossom, I collected all the blossoms and the young leaves, lots of little baby leaves and blossoms, and that's been tincturing away since May. And I've tinctured this using the Wise Woman method, which is simply put it into a jar and then cover it with vodka, and that's been tincturing away since May. So I'm just going to pour about half a litre into here, and then here's my berries, and I've done this a slightly different way. I've done this weight to volume measure. So for every ounce of hawthorn berries, I added 2 ounces of vodka, which is why it hasn't quite filled the jar. I just want to see if there's any difference. Does it make it stronger, or is it the same? You can see how red the vodka has become. That's because the hawthorn berries are full of antioxidants. That's why it's so nourishing for the heart. It's an extremely gentle, nourishing remedy. So I have a litre of hawthorn tincture, and that is half berries, half blossom and leaves. They all bring their own constituents to make a fully rounded remedy. And as I was saying, it's a nourishing, toning remedy, so it passes through and out again, so it's very, very, very safe. You can take it with ordinary hypotensive medications. You have to check with your doctor first, because you don't want your blood pressure to come down too quickly. So as long as you're not on blood thinners and beta blockers and things, it is safe to take, but always check with your doctor first. In Germany, this is just given as a prophylactic to anybody over the age of 50, because it is nourishing and toning, and it's going to act as a preventative. Funnel.